we're now going to open up the mic for questions.
But you have to give us an example of how you start with nothing and end up with something. So if you find any kind of physical evidence in the universe where you start with nothing and end up with anything at all, other than nothing, then I would like to hear that. So it's more of a comment and clarifying the definition and kind of clarify this issue because it is fundamental. So thank you very much for your time. And listen.
Okay, first, this is two separate questions. Big Bang and evolution are completely separate points. We haven't even really talked about the beginning of life, so I'll skip that. The beginning of life is called abiogenesis, and it's completely separate from evolution. So since we haven't covered that, I won't discuss it now. The Big Bang really does not make sense. I am certainly not a physicist. I studied a bit of physics, I got some quantum mechanics and general and special relativity in college, but it really doesn't make sense at all in our normal everyday experience. But it does make sense for the physicists who study it. We have actually going on at the quantum mechanics level, we have particles coming in and out of existence all the time. They're called virtual particles. This is a real effect. They've been actually what's called the Casimir effect, where they can show that the wave fields from these particles do in fact exist. Now, it could be that the odds on creating our universe are extremely small, and it only really happen once. Or it could be, as we now know through string theory, which gives us a possibility of 10 to the 500th possible universes. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. So it could be that there are unbelievable quantities of universe out there, and if there were just one that allowed intelligence beings such as us to exist, we would be in that universe. So that's basically the Big Bang question was asked. But I readily admit it doesn't make sense from our point of view, but it does make sense from a physics point of view. The next question was evolution. First of all, let's note that the evidence for evolution is overwhelming. You can go and look in any library, you can go online to PBS. They have an excellent show talking about evolution. There was an excellent documentary recently we showed on PBS talking about the Dover trial, where they put intelligent design on
I'm sorry, Mark.
Okay. But that was two questions that I answered.
Oh, yeah, there was one question for Mike.
So I answered two questions. Okay, so I'd like a little bit more just to cover this. So for those of you who don't believe in evolution, whatever belief means about this, I suggest that you do your homework, go out and find the evidence. You can go to any library, they will have books there. You can go to any museum, and they will have extensive books showing how evolution has occurred, how it's driven by the energy from the sun to a great degree, so that we can see that it has occurred. We can see the evidence in our bodies. We can see the evidence in the other bodies and the other species on this planet. By the way, over 99% of the animals that have existed on this planet no longer exist because evolution has largely put them out of business in place of more advanced species that are better adapted. So this is not a good sign for an intelligent designer.
So I just can answer the question, how can something arise without a cause? Mark had said, if you can rewind the tape, says, I admit that it doesn't make rational sense. Well, of course, you can't have rational sense. Remember I said, if you deny the law of causality, you're denying rationality. I'm sure he understands that when he said that. Even the thought itself, I don't believe in the law of causality. Some type of previous thoughts, previous causes came to that conclusion. So the law of causality is undeniable. To say that quantum physics proves that the law of causality doesn't apply there, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle does not disprove the law of causality. It has nothing to say of causality. It's only says about predictability. We don't have the ability to predict where these particles are coming from. To say that there is no cause from them is to say that you know everything. You check every single possibility and claiming omniscience. So you're claiming God to disprove God. So I wouldn't take that irrationally. Just because there is no cause, just because we don't know the cause, does not follow that there is no cause.
One of the things that Mark mentioned he talked about the God of the gaps and argued that the God of the gaps doesn't exist. And I would agree with you, but the God of the gaps is not the God that I believe in. And he's not the God that I believe I see in Scripture. And he's not the God that was believed in by Newton or Boyle or the early scientists. And so I just want to ask you to respond to how I see God working in nature, which is the laws of nature. Law might be a poor word because it doesn't really cause things to happen. The laws of nature are our descriptions of how things work. And from kind of a philosophy of science perspective, the laws just describe how the universe works. They don't cause it to work. The Earth doesn't go around the sun because of gravity. Gravity describes how the Earth goes. And from a fundamental philosophical level, God is the one who causes that. And the things we understand are even caused by God. He's not the God of the gaps, he's the God of science, the God of the known, according to the view of Newton and Boyle. So I wanted you to respond to a God who is viewed in that perspective.
Could I have an explicit question?
Yeah, how would you, rather than responding to a God of the gaps, how would you respond to the God of Newton and Boyle, who is the God who controls nature?
That is largely the God of the gaps. That we don't understand something, therefore we say, God did it. Newton himself was a very religious man, spent a lot of his time trying to study the Bible to determine when the earth would occur. That doesn't mean that it actually occurred. Newton was very good at attempting to understand how the world around us worked. But as we've noted, his ideas have been usurped by Einstein, relativity, and special relativity. So, you can think of a God as having set up these rules, whatever, or restrictions and things. That doesn't mean that the God actually did it. I'm going to just simply take it as a brute fact. As I pointed out before, string theory gives us 10 to the 500 possible universes that are internally consistent. If those did indeed exist, then if just one of them allowed us to exist, then we would be in that universe. So if you want to believe that there's God behind it, that's fine. I just don't think that it's necessary. You just accept them as they do. Also, we're faced with an additional question. If God created the universe, then who created God? And any answer that you can give to that, why not simply give it to the universe itself?
So the whole God of the gaps, I admit there's a lot of lazy thinking Christians that just apply, they don't understand, and they say, oh, well, God must have did it. But when we're talking about a cause, we're attributing some type of cause that caused the universe. We say this cause must be powerful because it can create something out of nothing. Must be timeless because time was created. Must be non-spatial because time, space, and material. So it's immaterial, timeless, self-existent, that means infinite or eternal, and unimaginably powerful, supremely intelligent to create a design. This is just a cause that we're attributing. Simply coming from the law of cause and effect. We're not saying, well, we don't understand, God did it. No, we understand the law of causality, and we're attributing there had to be a cause to this effect of the universe that we see. And then we were told, well, if that brings what caused God? The law of causality says that everything that has a beginning, everything that begins to exist has a cause. It doesn't say that everything has a cause. So there was no beginning for the eternal. There was no beginning when there is no beginning. No one made God. There is no such thing as it's an irrelevant question because there is no beginning to the eternal. If the universe was eternal, then we can say the universe, remember, there's only two logical possibilities. Either the universe is eternal or something outside the universe is eternal. We know the universe is not eternal, so it needs a cause. The string theory, sure, it could be a theory. It's possible theoretically, but where's the evidence? Show us the evidence. If someone wants to believe the string theory, they must know that they're believing the string theory out of blind, sheer faith.